I'm Noah, 34 years old, and I've always been the guy who shows up. The one who pays the bills on time, remembers every birthday, and picks up the pieces when life gets messy. Growing up, I wasn't the favorite, not the prodigy, not even the screw-up, just the steady one. The one who'd drive mom to the grocery store when her car broke down, or lend dad a couple $100 when his paycheck didn't stretch. I wasn't flashy about it. I just did it because that's what family does, right? You show up. But in my family, showing up never got you a seat at the table. It got you silence. Or worse, a pat on the back and a, Noah, you're too sensitive when you dared to point out the unfairness. My younger brother Jake, though, he was the sun our family orbited around. Jake, with his boyish charm, his half-finished dreams, and his knack for dodging consequences. Dropped out of high school? No problem. Mom said he was finding himself. Job hopped through his 20s, living rent-free at home until he was 30. Dad called it entrepreneurial spirit. Jake could do no wrong. And me, I was just Noah, the reliable one, the one who didn't make waves. I didn't mind it at first. I loved my family. My parents, Ellen and Tom, were good people, just caught up in Jake's glow. Mom was a retired nurse with a laugh that could light up a room, but she had a blind spot for Jake's flaws. Dad was a mechanic, gruff but kind, always tinkering with something in the garage. They weren't perfect, but they were mine. And Jake, well, he was my little brother, 2 years younger with a smirk that could talk him out of anything. When we were kids, we'd build forts out of couch cushions, pretending we were knights defending a castle. I'd always let him be the king. Even back then, I was setting up the stage for him to shine. But as we grew up, the dynamic shifted. Jake's charm became a weapon, and I became the backdrop to his spotlight. By the time we hit our 30s, I was running my own small accounting firm. Nothing glamorous, but steady. I paid my mortgage, saved for retirement, even helped my parents with their property taxes when they fell behind. Jake, he was still crashing on mom and dad's couch, promising his next big idea was just around the corner. And yet, somehow, he was the one they bragged about at family gatherings. Jake's got such big dreams, Mom would say, her eyes sparkling. He's going places. I'd nod, smile, and swallow the sting. Then Jake met Emily. She was smart, kind, and way out of his league, or so I thought. Emily was a graphic designer, 29, with a quiet confidence and a smile that made you want to tell her your life story. Jake met her at a bar, of course, spinning tales of his startup that was always about to take off. To my surprise, she fell for him. Hard. 6 months later, they were engaged, and our family lost their minds with excitement. Mom cried happy tears. Dad slapped Jake on the back like he'd won the lottery. And I was happy for him. Really, I wanted Jake to have something good. I wanted him to grow up. But then came his engagement dinner. Mom called me one Tuesday afternoon, her voice bubbling with plans. Noah, we're throwing Jake and Emily an engagement party, a rooftop dinner at that fancy new place downtown. The Starlight Room, it's going to be perfect. I could hear her flipping through her notebook, listing table settings and menu options. We just need you to help with the deposit. It's $1,500. We'll pay you back, I promise. I hesitated. Money was tight. I just covered a new client's tax audit and hadn't been paid yet. But I heard the joy in her voice and I thought of Jake finally getting his act together. Sure, Mom, I said. I'll handle it. She squealed, thanked me, and hung up. I wired the money that night, assuming it was a one-time thing, a gift for my brother's future. A week later, Dad called. Noah, the restaurant needs another $1,700 to secure the catering and flowers. Can you cover it? We'll square up after. I frowned. That was a lot of money, and I hadn't heard a peep about the first deposit being repaid. But Dad sounded so earnest, and I didn't want to be the guy who ruined Jake's big moment. So I paid it. I even went a step further. I picked out the flowers myself, white roses and lilies, because Emily had mentioned once that she loved them. I ordered a case of champagne, too, because I wanted to show up with something special. I wanted to be part of this. The night of the dinner, I put on my best suit, a navy blue one I'd bought for a client meeting, and drove downtown. the champagne bottles clinking in the back seat. I was early as always. The Starlight Room was stunning, a rooftop venue with twinkling lights, a view of the city skyline, and tables draped in white linens. I handed the champagne to the staff, checked in with the manager to confirm the deposit, and felt a flicker of pride. I'd helped make this happen for Jake, for Emily, for all of us. But when I walked into the main dining area, something felt off. The family table was packed. Mom, Dad, Emily's parents, a few of Jake's buddies, and some cousins I hadn't seen in years. Everyone was laughing, clinking glass, already in full celebration mode. Jake stood at the head of the table, his arm around Emily, grinning like he owned the world. I scanned for my seat, expecting to be near them. Instead, Jake caught my eye, smirked, and pointed to a lone chair in the corner, next to a trash bin. "That's you, Noah," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Family table's full." Laughter rippled through the group. Mom glanced at me, then quickly looked away, fussing with her napkin. Dad shrugged like it was no big deal. Emily's parents looked uncomfortable but didn't say anything. Emily herself was distracted, laughing at something Jake whispered in her ear. I stood there, coat still on, clutching my car keys, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. It wasn't just the chair, it was the smirk, the laughter, the way no one, not even my parents, stood up for me. I walked to the chair, sat down, and tried to breathe through the humiliation. The trash bin smelled faintly of food scraps, and the chair wobbled on uneven legs. For 2 hours I sat there invisible. Waiters passed me by. No one offered me a drink, a plate, or even a glance. Jake gave a speech about love and family, and everyone cheered. Mom toasted to our perfect son. Dad clapped him on the shoulder. I stared at the skyline, the city lights blurring as my throat tightened. That night wasn't the first time I'd been sidelined, but it was the sharpest. It cut deeper because I'd gone all in. Money, time, effort, heart, and they'd repaid me with a seat by the trash. As I sat there, memories flooded back. Each one a reminder of how I'd always been the family's safety net, never the star. There was the time in high school when Jake crashed Dad's car, joyriding with his friends. I was 18, working part-time at a grocery store, and I gave Dad my savings to cover the repairs. $800 I'd been saving for a used laptop. Dad promised to pay me back. He never did. Jake, meanwhile, got a lecture and a new skateboard. Or the Christmas when I was 25, and Mom asked me to loan Jake $2,000 for a business idea that never materialized. I sent the money, no questions asked, because I wanted to believe in him. Jake bought a motorcycle instead. When I asked about it, Mom said, "Oh, Noah, he's young. Let him live." Those moments piled up over the years, each one a small betrayal I'd brushed off. I told myself it was fine. I was the big brother, the responsible one. But sitting by that trash bin, I realized something. I wasn't just their safety net. I was their doormat, and they didn't even see it. The breaking point came when the waiter approached me with the bill, $3,000 for the dinner, drinks, and extras. He looked apologetic, like he knew I'd been sidelined all night. "Sir, since you paid the deposit, they said to charge you for the rest?" It was a question, not a statement. I looked across the room at Jake, who was laughing with his friends, oblivious. Mom was sipping her wine, avoiding my eyes. Dad was nodding along to something Emily's father said. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. Every head turned. The room went quiet. Jake's smirk faltered. I looked at the waiter, then at my family and said, "Not my table. I was told I'm not family." The silence was deafening. Jake's face turned red. "It was a joke, Noah," he stammered. "Don't make a scene." Mom jumped in, her voice sharp. "Noah, you're being dramatic. Just pay it, and we'll sort it out later." Dad leaned forward, his tone low. "Son, just finish it. You already covered the deposit." I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that surprised even me. "Finish it?" I said. "I picked the venue. I paid the deposit. I bought the flowers. I brought the champagne. And you sat me by the trash. You laughed. And now you want me to pay for your party?" I shook my head, my voice steady but cold. "I'm done." I walked out, leaving the bill on the table. The city air hit me like a slap, cool and sharp. My phone buzzed immediately. Jake, texting. You ruined everything. Way to be a jerk. Then Mom. Noah, that was cruel. You're better than this. I didn't reply. I drove home, the champagne bottle still clinking in the back seat, and sat in my dark apartment, replaying the night. I wasn't angry anymore. I was empty, and that scared me more. The next day, Emily called. Her voice was soft, hesitant. Noah, did you really pay for everything? The deposit, the flowers, all of it. I told her the truth. Yes, I had. She went quiet for a long time. Then she said, Jake told me you offered to cover it all. He said you left early because of work. I let out a dry laugh. Emily, I was there the whole time, by the trash bin where he put me. She didn't say much after that, just a quiet, I'm sorry. But I could hear the gears turning in her head. A few days later, I got a call from her father, Robert. He was a no-nonsense guy, a retired firefighter with a deep voice and a deeper sense of fairness. Noah, he said, Emily told me what happened. I checked with the restaurant. Jake lied to us, to her. If your family treats you like this, how are they going to treat my daughter? I didn't know what to say, so I just listened. He thanked me for being honest and hung up. 2 weeks later, Emily broke off the engagement. Jake's world fell apart. He called me screaming through the phone. You told her lies. You sabotaged me. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just hung up. Mom called next, crying, Noah, how could you do this to your brother? You're tearing us apart. I told her, I didn't do anything. I just stopped paying for your lies. She didn't call back. The fallout was swift and brutal. Jake moved back in with our parents, his dreams of a fancy wedding and a charmed life with Emily gone. His friends, who'd always flocked to his charisma, started drifting away when the money dried up. Emily's father made sure everyone in their social circle knew the truth. Jake had lied about the dinner, humiliated his own brother, and expected Noah to foot the bill for his ego. The story spread like wildfire, and Jake's reputation took a hit he couldn't charm his way out of. But the real turning point came a month later when Emily emailed me. It was long, heartfelt, and raw. She apologized for not noticing how I'd been treated that night. She'd spoken to the restaurant staff, who confirmed everything. Jake's lie about me offering to pay, the way he'd laughed when he pointed me to the trash bin, the way my parents had looked the other way. She wrote, I see it now, Noah. You were the only one with dignity that night. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. Her words hit me hard, not because I needed her validation, but because it was the first time anyone in my orbit had acknowledged the truth. I wasn't the sensitive one. I wasn't the dramatic one. I was the one who'd been carrying the weight of my family's dysfunction for years, and I'd finally put it down. Mom showed up at my apartment a few weeks later, unannounced, holding a pan of lasagna, my favorite. Her eyes were red, her voice shaky. Noah, she said, I'm sorry. We treated you like a safety net. We took you for granted. I see that now. I let her in, but I didn't let her off the hook. We talked for hours, and for the first time, she didn't make excuses for Jake. She didn't ask me to fix it. She just listened. Dad called a few days later. He didn't apologize outright. That wasn't his style, but he said, you did the right thing walking out. I should have said something that night. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Jake, though, he never apologized. He sent one last text a month after the breakup. You happy now? You got your revenge. I didn't reply. Revenge wasn't the point. The point was freedom. I was done being the family's ATM, their emotional punching bag, their invisible sun. I'd spent years catching people who never looked down to see me. That night at the dinner, I stopped catching. It's been 6 months since that night. I'm doing fine. Better than fine, actually. I took that trip to Spain I'd been putting off for years. I walked the cobblestone streets of Barcelona, ate tapas under the stars, and felt for the first time in a long time, like I was enough. I started therapy, not to fix myself, but to honor the part of me that stayed kind despite it all. My therapist calls it reclaiming my narrative. I call it building my own table. Jake's still at home with mom and dad, working odd jobs, trying to piece his life back together. I don't hate him. I don't even wish him ill. I just don't feel responsible for him anymore. Mom and I talk sometimes, but it's different now. She's trying, and I give her credit for that. Dad sends me texts about baseball, and I reply when I feel like it. Emily? She moved to Seattle for a new job. We're not close, but I respect her for seeing the truth and acting on it. I didn't pay that $3,200 bill. The restaurant ended up comping part of it after Emily's father raised hell, and Jake had to scramble to cover the rest. But in a way, I settled a bigger debt, one I'd been carrying my whole life. I paid it by walking away, by choosing myself, by refusing to sit by the trash anymore. Now I'm building a life that feels like home. It's not perfect, but it's mine. And for the first time, I'm sitting at my own table, center stage, no one laughing, no one looking away.